To say 2006 was a rough year for Sonic would be an understatement. A bunch of games were released during Sonic's 15th anniversary, including a terrible port of the first game for the Game Boy Advance, exclusively for North America, so us Europeans were thankfully spared. I didn't even know about it until many years later, so it was a tiny rough patch. However, no one at the time could recover from the infamous game for the Xbox 360 that is still talked about to this day, like an embarrassing moment one of your friends brings up every now and then. However, 2006 wasn't all that bad for the die. In fact, it started off pretty well, with my favourite spin-off revolving around the Blue Blur. Production ID did an excellent job with this opening. If there's a cool introduction to get you amped up for a race, this is it. And that music? Oh my god, fire. The 2000s was an era where extreme sports games were all the rage. Sonic is no stranger to extreme sports, having pinches of snowboarding and skateboarding, so having a full game where you have Sonic and Gain on hoverboards and roller skates was a match made in heaven. I remember loving games like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 1080 Avalanche, plus with a household of Sonic fans, it was a no-brainer that we had a copy of this game. Sonic Riders was released in 2006, near the end of the 6th console generation, with the Xbox 360 already being out at the time, and even 2 decades later is fondly remembered by a bunch of people, including myself, playing it every now and then. After watching the opening, there's quite the stuff you can do. First of all, like any other Sonic game post-adventure, there is a story mode with 2 campaigns, with the first being the Heroes campaign, and once you beat that, you unlock the Babylonians campaign, featuring characters introduced in this game, the Babylonians, which include Storm the Albatross, Wave the Swallow, and their leader Jet the Hawk, who at the time I thought was a modernized version of Being the Dynamite from Sonic the Fighters. The story mode is simple, that can be beaten in under 2 hours. The usual cast of Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, and Eggman are what you expect playing into their roles, but aren't the main focus of the story. The game mostly focuses on the Babylonians, and I really love these 3. They're basically the rivals of Team Sonic, being 1-to-1 in personality. Storm is your musclehead like the Heroes era Knuckles, Wave is the mechanic, similar to Tails, and Jet is the leader of the group who, like Sonic, is a carefree individual always seeking a challenge. Funny how he and Sonic in this game are voiced by the same actor, Jason Griffith, and still used as the same voice actors from the Sonic X cast. Although, strangely enough, despite Mike Pollock voicing Eggman in the story mode, the game uses voice samples from Dean Bristow's Eggman during the gameplay moments.
Are you Jet, the legendary rogue? Your reputation precedes you. I've heard so much about your infamous group. Sonic! I'm sorry. Really, look, go easy on me. I'll turn over a new leaf, I swear. Just give me a chance!
The racers are now getting ready.
Do you think you can beat me?
I'll beat you!
Do you think you can beat me?
The story itself isn't much to write about, but I do like the interactions between Sonic and the new rivals. While the Babylonians are similar to Sonic and Gang, they have their own identity, who are a lot more selfless, with Jet usually having gold on the mind, and Wave even sabotaging the race for their team to win the Grand Prix. The performances aren't what you call high art, but Gang it's hilarious with memorable lines like,
Not just a race, but a special race to see who's the fastest.
And
Even without wings, I can still fly! Right?
anything that comes out of Jet's mouth never fails to crack me up. Hideki Moriya, who previously worked on the field designs for Phantasy Star Online, as well as the menus for the two 6th generation Sonic Kitsons, took the role as the art director for this project, redesigning a bunch of old characters, giving them that Y2K flair to them. I love the use of shading and sharp brush outlines for each character portrait, and the conversion to in-game models Yitz did. My favourite designs out of the veterans are Sonic with his simple but cool looking sunglasses and sneakers, and Amy's and Roos's sports fits. But god, I love the Babylonian designs and their flame tattoos. I can imagine if they gave them tribal tattoos. Wave's design in particular is my favourite, from the bandana, the orange tinted sunglasses, the flame baddie trousers, to the crop top. They get similar to a swallow's breast. Even Moriya's menu design is a top notch with that Y2K futurism style, plus I love how browsing through the menu shows you various features of what each mode has to offer. He certainly has a knack for displaying some cool yet easy to navigate menus. The music perfectly fits the vibe of this sci-fi racer with some of the most electro-banging tunes you would hear in a Sonic soundtrack. The soundtrack was done by 3 composers, Kenichi Totoi, Fumi Tomokani and Tomonori Satowada, who have been involved with Sonic before and after. I do want to point out Tomonori Sawada in particular, the sound director for the game, who did the majority of the course tracks along with the menu music. He composed the one track for Jet Set Radio titled Electric Toothbrush under the name Toronto, and remixed the track for Jet Set Radio Sneak Man, which was originally composed by Hideki Nagamura, which if you listen both of his words on those names and riders, you can hear the similarities. In fact, let's test this out swapping a track from Riders with Electric Toothbrush. I don't think there's a weak game to the soundtrack, but my favourite has to come from Fumi Tomokani and her work on Babylon Guardians track, which is an absolute rave. Sonic Riders has a lot of style, but it has a lot of substance too. There are a total of 16 courses, with 12 of them featured in the World Grand Prix mode. It's a pretty standard size for a racing game at the time, but half the courses are re-skins of the other half, featuring the same music tracks. And don't let that fool you though, as each courses have unique themes to set them apart. For example, Sand Ruins and Dark Desert, while having similar themes, do have elements that are exclusive to them, from Sand Ruins' John Bow at the end, to Dark Desert's 4 consecutive ramps at the beginning, and teleportation device at the end. While the story and Grand Prix mode are what I went for when booting up a save file, the real test of the game comes from the mission mode, which asks you to understand its mechanics. While getting bronze is easy enough, trying to get gold in all the missions can be tough, requiring you to understand each course layout. There are a ton of missions, with every course having a set of 5 missions, as well as an extra set of missions when you beat those. Missions are varied from grinding a set number of rails, beating the clock, to finishing the lap with a set amount of air. The mission mode was a lot of fun to do. The boards, otherwise known as Extreme Gear, run on air, which is finite and decreases with every moment, and decreases faster when you drift, boost, or hold the jump button while gaining air. That can be done by performing tricks in the air, or using a specific character type ability like grinding or flying. Riders implements heroes' speed, flight and power types, with each racer dedicated to a certain type. speed touters can grind on rails, flying touters can, well, fly, and the power touters can destroy cars, robots, and other heavy objects in the way, and each course is designed with these abilities in mind, with multiple routes to discover. You can swap between a variety of gears and have their own quirks, and it may even unlock an additional type for a touter. So you can have, say, Tails, a flight touter, and give him a speed gear, and now he can fly as well as give him access to grind on rails. Now each course does have yacht type pathways. There are other routes that can be discovered by anyone, which can be done by performing tricks at the right time, as well as holding up or down on an anti-object, which will either launch you further or upwards. Sonic Riders is a surprisingly deep racing game, which is something I personally love. However, its biggest hurdle is understanding its mechanics. This isn't a big issue for me, as I've been playing this for 20 years, and if you have the manual for this game, it tells you the essentials. But the game doesn't do a great job at teaching newbies stuff like how tricks work, with the tutorial being shown in the options menu. It's not as easy to jump into like Mario Kart or Crossworlds, as this is a game of skill. So if you jump in with veterans, you aren't going to have a pleasant time. But get some practice with the mission mode or normal races, get some tips from friends or online before hopping on multiplayer, and you should have a great time. If you are behind an opponent, they may use a turbulence, which can be useful to catch up and give you some extra air. But the turbulence can be a hindrance, as sometimes it activates at the most unnecessary times that either blocks me from a certain path or pours me into a bottomless pit. The roster starts out with only 7 touters, but you can unlock more by beating the story mode and the mission mode, and the rewards are great. Eggman, Cream, Shadow, and Rouge are playable along with some Egg Pawns, but there are also 3 Sega guest touters. You have Sonic Team's Knights, the Space Channel 5 news reporter, Ulala, and I from Monkey Law. A great selection, but a huge missed opportunity that Beat from Jet Set Radio wasn't playable. He would have been perfect for this game. He wasn't even in Zero Gravity. Super Sonic is also playable, however you have to clear all the gold medals in Mesa mode, which can be tough. Sonic Riders is the best Sonic racing game to date, and it's sad to see that it didn't go further. I've only played Zero Gravity recently, so I don't have a lot to say on it, but it's a lot more simplified and that uses some of the original game's charm. I think the death of the series came from Free Riders and the over-reliance of gimmicky peripherals. Sonic Team did bring back Jack and Crew as playable races and crossworlds along with the extreme gears, which is cool. However, it's not the same as it feels in Riders. Don't get me wrong, Crossworlds is a great game, but I would love to see a brand new Riders game that is more like the original with no gimmicks or simplifying the mechanics and have more courses and characters to choose from. If you played Sonic Riders, let me know what you think of the game, and I would also love to know what your favourite Sonic soundtrack is. For me, there are plenty of great ones, but have a lot of funness for Adventure 1 soundtrack with its mix of hard rock and use of saxophones. I hope you enjoyed this video, as the next time we'll be diving into some classics. I shall see you then.